Welcome back to Dinar Daily Buzz, the trusted global destination for IQDV and foreign currency holders who operate through preparation, not speculation. Imagine stepping into a busy bank lobby, your heartbeat quickening, carefully protected Iraqi Dinar notes in your hand, only to hear the teller say, "I am sorry, we cannot accept these notes." For countless currency holders across this year, this disappointing scenario has become familiar and emotionally draining, yet rejection at the counter does not equal failure. In reality, it represents a turning point for anyone willing to approach this landscape with strategy and clarity. Why is this happening right now? The reason ties directly to the fast-shifting global financial environment shaped by sweeping monetary reforms, intensified regulatory controls, and rapid technological transformation redefining the entire process of foreign note redemption. This shift is especially impactful for holders of exotic currencies like Iraqi Dinar, IQD, Vietnamese Dong, VND, and Zimbabwean dollar ZWL. Central banks worldwide are tightening systems, upgrading security standards, and fortifying anti-fraud frameworks. Banks must follow these rules to avoid compliance violations and financial crime exposure. This guide equips you with real strategies backed by practical intelligence, giving you a clear step-by-step blueprint for navigating rejection, intelligently repositioning your holdings, and potentially maximizing outcomes within this evolution. Preparation, not panic, remains your most valuable advantage. Throughout this year, currency holders, especially those dealing with exotic notes such as IQDV and ZWL, are experiencing higher rejection rates than ever. Contrary to popular belief, these rejections rarely stem from conspiracy. Instead, they originate from very real and very strict financial safeguards. Global banks have upgraded verification systems dramatically. Currency departments now rely on high-grade scanners, anti-counterfeit hardware, and AI-enhanced recognition tools that inspect every microscopic detail of each note. Iraqi Dinar, printed before 2003, for instance, is instantly rejected due to demonetization following the fall of the previous regime. Vietnamese Dong, that no longer aligns with the current polymer-based system, is similarly declined. Zimbabwe old bearer checks, once printed in trillions during the hyperinflation collapse, are categorized as historical memorabilia rather than legal tender. Meanwhile, increased anti-money laundering and know your customer regulations force banks to accept only currency that meets the highest authenticity and documentation standards. Institutions lacking direct relationships with central banks such as the Central Bank of Iraq, the State Bank of Vietnam, or the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe reject redemptions outright to avoid risk. Understanding these regulatory mechanics turns rejection into a strategic advantage rather than a roadblock. One mistake many foreign currency holders make when confronted with rejection is assuming bank incompetence. While banks can be wrong, the burden of proof now falls more heavily on the investor. Before confronting a teller or filing complaints, you must conduct a full verification of your notes. Physically inspect each bill for crispness, watermarks, security threads, micro-printed markings, and proper serial formatting. Small issues like worn edges, faded ink, or light creases can trigger mechanical rejection. Post-2003 Iraqi Dinar includes enhanced anti-counterfeit features such as color-shifting ink and clear security bands. Vietnamese Dong today relies heavily on polymer material with transparent windows that earlier paper notes did not include. Zimbabwean notes require special scrutiny given the history of demonetization. Fortunately, new technology helps investors verify authenticity through digital tools or professional third-party grading services like PMG and PCGS issue authentication certificates that significantly increase your credibility during redemption. In the modern environment, verification is no longer optional, it is your first mandatory line of defense. Once you confirm authenticity, the next move is understanding bank-specific policies around exotic currency. Many investors wrongly believe all banks follow universal guidelines. That belief is outdated. Each institution structures its foreign currency department differently based on internal risk models, compliance thresholds, and existing international partnerships. Local branch personnel often lack authority to process exotic notes, even if larger corporate divisions can. This is why asking targeted questions questions is essential. Begin with simple direct inquiries such as: is your institution currently processing Iraqi Dinar or Vietnamese Dong? Follow with: do you maintain an active redemption framework with the Central Bank of Iraq or State Bank of Vietnam? Ask whether the institution accepts professionally authenticated notes from PMG or PCGS. Request written documentation of the foreign currency redemption policy for your records. Written confirmation gives you leverage and protects you from contradictory statements. Major institutions like Chase, Wells Fargo and TD often maintain specialized currency divisions reserved for private clients or high net worth profiles. Recognizing these internal separations helps you avoid wasted time and false expectations. When your notes are valid, you must go beyond know and search for a pathway that matches your profile. If authentic notes are in hand and your primary bank still refuses them, your next strategic move is exploring specialized institutions designed to handle exotic currency. By now, top-tier banks maintain exclusive divisions for foreign currency operations involving IQDV and ZWL. Access typically requires prior verification, strong documentation, and sometimes minimum financial thresholds. Beyond banks, professional redemption centers now operate in major U.S. cities working under strict compliance frameworks. These centers coordinate appointments, biometric identification, authentication protocols, and secure communications with central banks like the Central Bank of Iraq, the State Bank of Vietnam, and the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. They are not walk-in operations. They serve vetted clients who meet rigorous documentation requirements. Resources such as search terms Central Bank of Iraq affiliated institutions near me or VND Redemption USA help investors locate proper channels. As demand rises, many investors are scheduling verification appointments months ahead. Rejection from a hometown bank does not mean opportunity is gone. It simply means you must shift toward higher-level infrastructure pathways. In the heavily regulated environment, documentation is essential. Most rejected notes are not declined for authenticity but for incomplete compliance paperwork. Proof of purchase is mandatory whether currency came from a certified dealer, an established broker, or a major exchange provider. You must provide receipts linking the notes directly to identification. Requirements now include a passport, driver's license, and tax identification information. Large transactions may require an affidavit, notarized forms, or declarations confirming the legality of holdings. Zimbabwean currency often requires additional disclaimers acknowledging the lack of guaranteed redemption value. Banks and redemption centers rely on these documents to shield themselves from liability. Organized paperwork dramatically increases the approval rate in the modern environment. Compliance is not an afterthought, it is the gateway to success. Financial analysts tracking global monetary trends argue that the current wave of rejections may indicate larger structural shifts. Analyst Jordan M. Whitaker describes this phase as an essential cleansing before currency system reforms or valuation shifts. Central banks are eliminating counterfeit risks, invalid notes, undocumented currency, and external vulnerabilities ahead of larger policy transformations. Iraq's progress under IMF Article 8, Vietnam's central bank digital currency pilot rollout, and Zimbabwe's introduction of gold-backed digital instruments point to a future financial architecture that demands strict compliance. Historian Dr. Amira Sadade compares today's monetary turbulence to the post-World War II landscape preceding the Bretton Woods Agreement. Those who understood the deeper mechanics then shaped the next half-century of global finance. Those who understand the structural shifts today may benefit similarly. If your local institution rejects IQDV or ZWL, alternative pathways remain available. Licensed currency brokers regulated by FINRA or state money transmitter laws offer safer, documented, market-aligned conversion. Many investors prefer brokers due to quick settlements and strong compliance support. Airport exchange hubs offer partial liquidity for small denominations, though at less favorable rates. Private collectors may value obsolete notes, though caution is essential. Redemption agreements, specialized contracts with vetted financial intermediaries, represent structured pathways with preset rates, authentication requirements, and strong legal oversight. Regardless of method, reputable channels and strong documentation protect your asset. Observers of global trends recognize that this year marks a transitional moment for international monetary systems. IMF reforms, BRICS digital currency initiatives, commodity-backed settlement frameworks, and increasing decentralization of global reserves indicate a shift in how emerging economies interact with world markets. Iraq's strengthened banking reforms, Vietnam's blockchain adoption, and Zimbabwe's asset-linked instruments reflect the rising relevance of exotic currencies in global trade discussions. Economist Jared Brooks predicts expanded use of undervalued emerging currencies in bilateral trade agreements by the year's end. Investors engaged today are not merely participating in speculative activity, they are positioning for a role in an evolving monetary environment. Hearing rejection from a teller may feel discouraging, but within the broader context it often pushes investors towards stronger preparation and better resources. IQDV and ZWL holders must recognize the global patterns shifting beneath the surface. Success in this environment comes from verification, documentation, institutional research, and execution. The modern monetary landscape rewards those who respond to challenges with strategy rather than emotion. Rejection is not a final verdict, it is a directional indicator guiding you toward more secure, compliant, and optimized pathways. During an era of monumental financial transformation, those who adapt quickly and prepare thoroughly will be positioned to benefit as tomorrow's monetary world takes shape. Once your notes are authenticated and your initial institution's policies are understood, the next step is navigating the layered architecture of the global redemption network. In this new financial era, banks no longer function as uniform gateways. Instead, each institution participates in a tiered ecosystem governed by its own partnerships with foreign central banks, digital settlement providers, and domestic compliance teams. This structural evolution means informed investors must shift from passive inquiry to strategic navigation. Elite financial institutions now maintain 3 levels of exotic currency access. Level 1 is standard retail branches. These branches offer basic foreign currency services but rarely process IQDV or ZWL due to internal risk protocols. Staff are trained to redirect, not resolve. Their purpose is triage. Level 2 includes regional currency hubs. These hubs contain dedicated foreign exchange officers, enhanced authentication equipment, and secure communication lines with international partners. They handle moderate volumes and serve pre-vetted clients. Level 3 consists of specialized redemption divisions reserved for high-volume documented investors. These private divisions operate under strict audit environments. They coordinate directly with the compliance teams of central banks and often integrate with Ripple Swift ledgers or private blockchain rails for settlement. Entry requires documentation, compliance clearance, and digital pre-registration. Understanding these tiers prevents delays and eliminates the common mistake of expecting retail branches to process high-risk foreign notes. Expanding beyond your primary bank. If your home institution remains unable or unwilling to process your authenticated notes, the next strategic step is entering the specialized institution network, the backbone of exotic currency operations in the current financial infrastructure. These specialized institutions operate in major U.S. hubs such as the Dallas International Exchange Corridor, the Atlanta Digital Settlement District, the New York Unified Currency Center, and the Seattle Multi-Asset Verification Hub. Each center runs on a blend of biometric intake, tiered authentication, blockchain timestamping, and dual operator verification. Unlike banks, these centers function as hybrid financial compliance facilities, part regulatory, part technological, part settlement infrastructure. Appointments must be secured weeks or months in advance. Walk-ins are not permitted under any circumstances. Every visitor is screened through pre-clearance, including sanctions checks, source of funds audits, and cross-border reporting protocols. Rejection at your hometown bank is no longer a roadblock, it is simply a signal that you must transition into the higher order redemption architecture. The new currency compliance standard, the most underestimated obstacle for investors, continues to be documentation in the regulated ecosystem. Institutions do not reject notes because they are invalid, they reject them because the paper trail is incomplete. Modern redemption requires original purchase receipts, dealer certifications, bank transaction logs, digital confirmations, verification barcodes, if issued valid government ID such as a passport, real ID, or enhanced driver's license, tax identification, match, and affidavit affidavit confirming lawful acquisition, source of funds declarations for large positions. Investors handling Zimbabwean currencies often require additional disclaimers acknowledging their participation under the Post-Collateralization Exchange Act, protecting institutions from liability during transitional settlement. For investors who maintain meticulous records, these requirements are not obstacles, they are accelerants. Proper documentation does not merely support your redemption, it places you in the fast lane of the financial infrastructure. Financial analysts who monitor long-term monetary cycles argue that the spike in rejections across banks and currency centers is not a setback, it is a signal. According to macro strategist Jordan Whitaker, the turbulence seen now reflects a necessary systemic purification before the next phase of global realignment. In his words, legacy systems have to purge counterfeit risk, undocumented notes, and regulatory blind spots before new valuation models or settlement frameworks can emerge. What looks like resistance at the retail level is often the earliest indicator of coordinated structural reform. Evidence of this trend appears across multiple regions. Iraq's regulatory strengthening under its post-Article 8 framework, Vietnam's central bank digital currency and digital dong pilot, and Zimbabwe's asset-linked digital instruments all point toward a future monetary architecture demanding unprecedented transparency and compliance discipline. Historian Dr. Amira Sadat draws historical parallels, comparing the current volatile white to the unsettled years preceding the Bretton Woods Agreement. Then, as now, nations were rebalancing reserves, redefining trade rules, and recalibrating currency value. The individuals who understood those deeper mechanics shaped the next half-century of global finance. Dr. Sadat argues the same is true today. Those who read the patterns early position themselves to benefit from the systems that follow. Alternative pathways remain open but require precision. If your local branch rejects your IQDVND or ZWL, it rarely means the end of the journey in the evolving ecosystem. Multiple parallel pathways exist. Licensed currency brokers regulated under FINRA or state money transmitter statutes provide market-aligned liquidity with strong compliance structures. Many investors prefer brokers because settlements are fast, digital records are clear, and audit trails remain intact. Airport exchange hubs offer quick access for small denominations, though at wide spreads and with limited acceptance. These hubs function as emergency liquidity centers rather than strategic redemption channels. Private collectors may purchase obsolete, historic, or unique note series. This route is high variance and requires caution, but can serve as an outlet for rare or discontinued printings. Redemption agreements are structured, legally governed contracts between vetted intermediaries and investors. Agreements outline preset rates, authentication requirements, timelines, and compliance obligations. They prevent ambiguity and minimize risk in a complex environment. Across all pathways, documentation is the difference maker. Rejections often stem from incomplete paperwork rather than authenticity concerns. Investors who maintain receipts, dealer certifications, digital confirmations, and consistent identification move through systems with far fewer barriers. Global context. Why the current period feels different. Observers tracking broader monetary trends describe now as a hinge point in global finance. The world is shifting away from single reserve dependency and toward multi-asset, multi-currency, digitally verified settlement structures. Indicators include IMF-driven modernization of foreign exchange reporting, BRICS digital currency cooperation, the rise of commodity-backed settlement models, blockchain-based audit layers in central bank operations, increasing decentralization of global reserves, Iraq's banking stabilizations, Vietnam's digital finance expansion, and Zimbabwe's asset-linked currency experiments are each part of a larger mosaic. Economist Jared Brooks forecasts that undervalued emerging market currencies may play bigger roles in regional trade agreements, supply chain finance, and cross-border credit structures. In other words, today's turbulence may be preparation for tomorrow's new system. Rejection is not a wallet, is a signpost. Hearing we do not accept that currency can feel discouraging, but within the broader framework, rejection often serves as a directional indicator, not a dead end. It pushes investors toward better documentation, stronger institutions, upgraded verification methods, clearer compliance routes, and more strategic decisions. Today's monetary environment rewards discipline, not impulse, strategy, not emotion, structure, not speculation. Those who adapt quickly, who maintain their documentation information, understand institutional pathways, verify sources and study global patterns are best positioned to participate meaningfully as the monetary world shifts into its next phase and transition. Leaders that prepare do not simply react to change, they benefit from it. Disclaimer: the information provided in this content is for educational, narrative and informational purposes only. It does not constitute financial advice, investment guidance, legal counsel or tax instruction. All references to currency exchanges, bank policies, institutional procedures, economic events or geopolitical developments are fictionalized, speculative or illustrative and should not be interpreted as statements of fact or predictions of real-world financial outcomes. Foreign currency transactions carry significant risk and are governed by strict regulatory requirements. Always verify information directly with official government agencies, licensed financial institutions and certified professionals before making any financial decisions. Never rely on online rumors, unverified reports or third-party claims. The authors and publishers of this content make no guarantees regarding accuracy, completeness or future developments and assume no liability for any actions taken based on this material. Readers are strongly encouraged to consult with qualified financial advisors, tax professionals and legal experts to obtain guidance tailored to their individual circumstances.